Man, I cannot believe it's a new year already. Time surely does fly when you've got so much to watch over the seasons. And once again, it is time for us to reflect on the previous year of anime in style as we begin anew. 2025 was another fantastic year, not just for anime, but as for animation as a medium itself. In the face of so much generative garbage, every season of the year had something in store that reminded us where the soul of this art form lies. And we were able to consume it in various corners, from Demon Hunters to Demon Slayers to Devil Hunters and indie animation studios like Glitch doing their damn best to bring quality shows. I couldn't get enough of it, and I was able to interact with so many of you all out there this year through these stories. From cinemas to binges, I might have been slightly overwhelmed with the sheer amount of quality, but I can't say I was never satiated. And 2026 looks to bring even more, especially with original ideas. Today, however, is the one day where I get to be plain selfish and talk about the anime that I believe defined 2025. That if you were to think about this year, these would be the anime that contributed to making it memorable. And what better way to kick things off than with my yearly spicy hot take that may or may not be the reason why my dislike ratio goes up. That being said, Takopi is not anime of the year.
I have to break your neck. It's just the way it is. I'm just a messenger.
Sports anime is in a place right now where you constantly hear about horse girl propaganda while everything else has had some come and go chatter. From the uphill battle of Blue Lock Season 2 to Haikyuu's final stretch of the story being formatted into a movie, putting us all in the waiting room, and now Aoashi coming back with its second season not too much longer after the manga concluded. There was room for something new to take the stage, and as it has been some time since the likes of Yuri on Ice, we finally returned to the world of ice skating with Medalist. Typically, when we get these stories, the main characters are in the middle school to high school range, as the age range tends to allow readers to grow up with these characters. But Medalist is the first story I have watched where it puts such an important and personal emphasis on the bond between a coach and an athlete, notably when our cast is primarily young children whose passions burn brighter than the sun. I don't believe there has been enough showcases in sports about the lengths adults go to in order to spearhead young children's dreams, and just how connected they can be to an athlete despite them not even being blood related. There is a special kind of bond born, and in the end, it is the responsibility of the wise to nurture them and do everything in their reasonable power to ensure that child can get as far as they can, because what can define someone's entire life can be the decisions made in their youth. But these kids are at a point where they can't do it alone. I know the cast not being in that teen range probably turned a lot of people away, but what you deny yourself from is one of the most moving narratives to come from last year, as Inori and Tsukasa's story aligned on a path that will push them to new athletic heights. There are various reasons why a person gets into sports. For some, it's a family legacy, others it's their only way out of a tough life. Many are naturally gifted for this sort of thing, and maybe even inspired to get into the ring. And while I believe that inspiration is a huge part of the narrative, there is something about the world of athleticism being a vehicle for a second chance at life and to change into an entirely different person that immediately sells me. This duo knows what it's like to struggle, to want more for themselves despite the odds being stacked against them, constantly being told that it's too late for them, which contributes to their lack of confidence and struggle to find a solid place to stand firm. Sometimes it's hard to stand on your own, but that's why we love the bond between a coach and their athletes. Through thick and thin, they better one another, leading into walls being broken down and overcome. Episode 1 didn't spare any time laying out the fact that Inori, being as young as she is, had a hard time liking herself, struggling with confidence and anxiousness, and yet the ice was the one place where she felt she belonged. A feeling Tsukasa is already familiar with looking at his younger self, and he saw himself in her. There was a common ground that they shared, and throughout the core, I found myself both humored and emotional as the world began to light up for these two in an effort to go above and beyond. Through all the time, the heart, and dedication put forth to improve at ice skating, the reflection on origin and where you want to be, meeting other coaches and students who each come from different backgrounds and yet have their own reasons for being here. From practice to competitions, you can't help but be so deeply invested in their journeys and equally focused on the routine performances. One mess up could be the difference between the goal being met or letting it pass by you again and again. Blue Lock exaggerates it, but it really does come off as a do or die in the sense of your competitive spirit being tested. People love to argue about what the hardest sport may be, but ice skating may just be one of the most difficult because of such high stakes and precise execution that must come with every movement. And yet, it's so impressive how these kids continue to nail it time and time again. When you're passionate about your craft, you tend to discover and learn so much about yourself, and eventually, you don't even think about the dark days anymore. That's the future I'm glad these children are running towards. The ice gives them a place to validate their existence and show that despite their flaws, there is greatness beyond them. But flaws don't disappear overnight. It's a slow and steady showcase of growth, and by the end of season 1, the Inori we see is a night and day difference compared to episode 1, keeping her head up and looking forward instead of down. Her family behind her, her goal to one day surpass Hikaru, one of the greatest youth skaters in this generation, and with Tsukasa being able to catch her by every misstep, I couldn't help but believe in the hype within medalists, especially with all that I have heard so much regarding the years. The team behind this show has proved themselves to be capable of handling this story and closing out with one of the most spectacular CGI performances. I want to continue to have confidence in this show and for Inori to continue building confidence in herself. With season 2 now in full swing as well, I can't wait to see where we go from here as we still have more characters to explore and what may end up being one of the best recent rivalries as well. But above all, I look forward to the day where both Inori and Tsukasa can be labeled as true gold medalists. Original anime tend to be something I look forward to the most over the years because I can truly go into it blind. No blueprint means a brand new experience waiting on me to immerse myself in, and Apocalypse Hotel was one of the 2 original shows to come from this previous year that truly left me with a good memory. Slowly but surely, Cygames Pictures have been building up a respectable catalog from Horse Girl Propaganda to Hikaru, and I could tell by the art style that gave me a similar vibe to that of which I would expect from Studio White Fox that this story was going to be quite expressive. And even bracing, it still managed to catch me off guard with some surprising emotional avenues. Coming off of Medalist, passion and dedication go hand in hand when it comes to one's enthusiasm for a calling. In a world where humanity had abandoned Earth to survive, the last traces of them would be instilled in a staff of robots preserving a high-quality hotel for their fateful day of return. No ETA or countdown, as all they could do is cling to the possibility of it happening under Yachio's leadership. There have been many stories where robots have such immense compassion or enthusiasm in a way that seems human, and even among the loneliness of time, this crew would not yield. But I remember watching episode 1, and there's a scene where Yachio has to go by this graveyard of all the previous staff, and this is when I knew that I was watching something special. The natural enemy of preservation is impermanence. These robots were committed to preserving the hotel until a customer arrived, but it was coming down to a matter of how long they would last. Would time outpace their programmed duty, or would Yachio succumb to wear and tear before she could truly realize the value in their creator's words? In this line of thinking, you really begin to sympathize with their dedication, even if they aren't human. When somebody dedicates their life to something, you want their efforts to reach fruition. Though I don't think any of the staff were expecting aliens to be the type of customers to validate their patience or act as a force of change. To serve is to be ready for anything, and you can't expect all the traditional practices for taking care of a human guest to translate so well. But in turn, this is where the show's comedy really shined. That disconnect will certainly bring forth some absolutely chaotic moments, and as the show went on, you got a feel for the balance balance of both emotional moments and humor, a lot of which would be shown through characters like Ponko. I think it's fair to say that she is the star of this story for not only her impact on Yachio and the special bond that they share, but being able to see her grow up really gave me such emotional attachment to her character. The one thing that these two had in common was that they wanted to uphold the hotel for reasons alike, and throughout all the time that would pass, there would be a lot of change to come with it, and although change can be intimidating, maintaining such hospitality while adjusting to the quirks of aliens would be an investment of a lifetime. When all you do is have time, there's plenty of room to adapt. It challenged them both to grow, and whether we're building a defense system or fighting off planetary invaders, I don't feel there was an obstacle overcome that didn't bring forth good change for the hotel's sake, leading into the peak of episode 9, where I couldn't help but laugh and cry at the same time. The simple message about impermanence is that nothing lasts forever, humanity's presence being one aspect, but also life itself as we all continue to grow old and watch others move on. Before you knew it, Ponko was getting married, and we were also burying her grandmother in the same roller coaster of an episode. A celebration of both life and a new commitment is something only the present day hotel could have accomplished with all that has changed. And with two major things going on at the same time, I kept thinking about how important it is to live your life. You don't realize how much you may miss out on life when you're committed to something so routinely that time flies by faster than you can imagine. And episode 11 was a testament to such thought, given this was the first time Yachio took an honest break in what I call the silent episode. It's not often that a series pulls back on voice acting and instead lets the ambience and scenery tell a story, but an entire episode dedicated to it was something incredibly special. At this point, Yachio was having some malfunctions, and while she didn't wear it on her face, I'd like to imagine that for the first time in her life, she was genuinely worried about her presence in the future. Aside from the space episode, of course. The second half of her day out is her looking for a solution, and I think the moment where she takes from the deceased robot in order to keep herself going was just as unexpected as when she returns to the hotel and says that she felt alive after her day. You could ask, what does it mean for a robot to feel alive when they lack a soul? But to live can also be to experience. To have those moments of discovery, joy, grief, worry, and doubt all contribute to the experience that is life. And unlike any of these characters in the show, our lifespans is much shorter. So much changed in humanity's absence that by the time someone did come back, the planet wasn't even suitable for them anymore. But even so, the spirit of hospitality lives on. That at least was the one thing that remained the same, and even beyond Yachio will probably continue. What made Apocalypse Hotel was the experience of maintaining your reason for living, even if things won't ever be the same. It makes you appreciative of what you can do and what you're able to pass down for somebody else to take up. Such is how we create history and proof that we exist. And that proof may just be what's worth it all in the end. Sakamikami was one of the authors I really came to love a few years back because of The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. What started out as a recommendation from a friend ended up becoming one of my favorite romance series to date, with a story full of so much wholesome diabetes it's enough for anyone to end up in the hospital. I know a lot of people have been looking for the angst, and trust me when I say it's coming, but early Fragrant Flower does something more than just focus on the relationship between Rentaro and Karuko. It digs deeper than that and highlights various forms of human love. This adaptation truly came at such a perfect time, knowing just how negative of an atmosphere society is in right now. If there is a common fault people engage in, it's entertaining assumptions and the ignorance that comes with it. It's so easy to give into negativity and false superstitions when you don't open your eyes and see people for who they really are. And defying those circumstances is the basis behind Karuko and Rintaro's relationship. Kikyo and Chidori have a cat and dog relationship that seems a bit extreme on the outside, but as the story goes on, you'll learn that, like many instances of ignorance, it's being taught and instilled in the students, more so at Kikyo. But that has nothing to do with the type of person Rintaro is, and the curiosity from Karuko to discover the truth on her own terms is one of the strong points of her character. Little by little, we see them learn more about each other, find more reasons to care about who they are as people. The start of their relationship treading carefully as they initially must avoid the wandering eyes of their peers, but it's because they hold those people in high regard respectively that it ends up being something they rather not keep hidden, and their honesty ends up being the bridge that brings these two worlds together. The Chidori crew are one of my favorite friend groups because of how Mikami doesn't put up the toxic masculinity wall between them. Sure, when the going gets tough, they can get pretty rough, but what really matters is that they communicate with one another. They respect the boundaries they have among the group and try to put forth their best efforts to be understanding towards one another because they found a friend in each other at Chidori. And on the flip side, Subaru and Karuko's relationship is framed in a sincere and protective light. I remember reading Subaru's introduction and at the time was wondering how long it would take to win her over, but she was never as mean or as cold as the first impression may imply. She wanted to protect Karuko, but she went about it the wrong way, and she had to accept the fact that the ignorance that played Kikyo's mindset was not going to be the deciding factor here. That red line needed to be crossed on her own terms, and through this, she was able to begin working on her relationship with both Chidori High and Men, whereas the Chidori crew could begin to mend the relationship with Kikyo, albeit our main couple's relationship would be able to form without walking on eggshells, and it's so easy to understand why people adore this story. If we could all take more time to understand one another, then maybe we wouldn't be so comfortable in our differences as humanity is so common to do. And that is why we love seeing these friendships formed in a place of good faith and willing. While I've talked about it in previous content, the one thing I gotta reiterate is the fact that I cannot get enough of how well written the presence of adults are also written in this story. I'm not saying that romance stories need a set of parents or teachers to be involved in order to be good, but at the same time, you really appreciate their presence here. It's gonna be some time before a lot more of the adults get to shine, but Rintaro's parents are by far some of the best around for how much they love their son and how they showcase it, especially Mom. All she has so desperately wanted was for somebody to see her son for the person he really is, to not allow his appearance to be the reason why her son can't connect with anyone else. I know she didn't expect for a girl with the biggest sweet tooth imaginable to help pave the way for such change, but you can really see the gratitude, and man, it's just so hard not to smile. The teams over at Cloverworks certainly had a busy schedule last year, coming off of 3 noteworthy adaptations that would all be airing at the same time. But I am just so thankful that this adaptation didn't really suffer. They were able to nail all the impactful moments, from friends and family to the aquarium date, the penultimate beach episode, and the finale with the summer festival confession. You ever read a chapter so good you have to stop yourself from backflipping in your room and accidentally breaking something because it's so good? That was me with chapter 39 being the perfect place to end season 1 as well, with a great arrangement of chapter 40 being included in between, might I add. And then they went even further and brought back the full version of the teaser song we heard back in the trailer within a special ending. That is how you end a season, but more importantly, is how you adapt the blooming of a new relationship, and the best has yet to come. There is so much more character work to get through, and I am very thankful to the Fragrant Flower team for meeting Mikami halfway with this adaptation, and hopefully for the years to come, the adaptation maintains the bright future ahead it has in store for itself. Horror anime has rarely been able to make some serious leaps in this medium. Heavenly Delusion was able to get a better portrayal of its body and psychological horror elements better than Uzumaki could for anything past episode 1. And that's supposed to be the horror holy grail apparently. When the summer Hikaru died got announced, I feel like I watched an explosion of excitement come from the fans of the series, and rightfully so. I don't see often enough queer media getting strong and memorable adaptations in this medium that really give focus to the experiences of a queer person and the internal struggles they have intertwined with horror elements that can be interpreted in various ways. A lot of people may not necessarily give this much focus, but the setting of this story really plays a significant part in establishing the feeling of isolation. Yoshiki is essentially surrounded by majority ignorance and is unable to connect with anyone else out in the world and talk about how he feels, which I'm sure the closeted crowd can relate to. He's reluctant to express what he is feeling deep down, as the village would deem his homosexuality as a sickness. And to make it worse, this monster in front of him is wearing the corpse of the person who is not only his best friend, but the person he liked deep down. It's a cruel and unfair dilemma, as already being unable to navigate his own sexuality in a healthy environment, he has to endor with a facade. But when you don't have the strongest connection with your family as is, the only thing you can do is turn to whatever safe haven there is left, even if it means accepting something that may not belong, which is ironic in itself. Horror was truly the best genre to incorporate into this experience, as it can be imbued in many scenes through various creative angles. The team behind this show really knew how to convey a plethora of emotions and reactions that corresponded with both mental state and the terrifying experience that is coming face to face with the entities that have come down from the mountain because of our new Hikaru. Unsettling, eerie, unnerving sound effects that zone in on the surrounding nature or the intensity of death being so close. Even using images that were taken in reality and incorporated into the anime that were vivid enough to make you second guess if you want to continue eating that cinnamon roll. A village with a history rooted in bloodshed and senseless murder will certainly give the story plenty of room to experiment with depicting how this place is not the best place to live. And as Yoshiki and this new Hikaru get deeply intertwined with one another, or the better phrase, mixed, the situation gets more and more complicated. You have this monster unable to remember what it is, unable to understand the value of life or human love, but still yearns for a place of belonging next to Yoshiki's side as the embers of the original Hikaru's final thoughts linger. On the other hand, you have a visibly struggling teen unable to find any sort of peace. Sometimes so alone, his family doesn't even notice that their son may not come home. But now he is finally being confronted about his feelings by this new Hikaru. And as it allows him to slowly accept the reality he's in, his wavering arrives at a point of acceptance, which isn't fully a good thing as far as the dangers that come with the spiritual dilemma. This is the drama where you can empathize with the idea of a human struggle, but not everyone will be able to relate. I found myself impressed with how there is so much care given into the idea of belonging and the effects of not having that safe space. There are a lot more barriers present in Yoshiki's life, and there's not much at this time he could do to change it. So naturally, until that day comes, perhaps sticking around with this new Hikaru will do, as it's very much what's keeping him around, which again is ironic. At the end of the day, the real Hikaru is gone. He'll never know how Yoshiki truly felt, and slowly but surely, those who have no idea what's going on will have to mourn the reality someday. Whether you feel seen by this show, or whether you are seeing those who don't have the atmosphere to voice their struggles, there is truth in this depiction. It may not be perfect, but as art imitates life, the author clearly has plenty to say through Yoshiki and Hikaru's relationship and how they process different things. And what a profound experience season 1 was. I'd like to hope that there is a bittersweet ending in mind that'll grant some form of peace for everyone involved, but for now, I'm down for the ride one tragic episode at a time.
Hello, dear my friends.
For a long time now, Nichijou fans have been in cryo sleep waiting for their next calling, and last July, they finally had a reason to suit up, as City the Animation would be the project that you knew by just the trailer would be a world of passion coming from Kyoto Animation. When it comes to animation, anime fans absolutely love to make things a competition. I mean, just look at how Demon Slayer and Chainsaw Man fans have been having the longest dick measuring contest over which movie was better. But to bring it back down to earth, animation is all about expression and creativity. Being able to convey the intent of an author or storyteller in such a visually appealing way, backed by the essence that is the human soul, is what binds us together as fans. And in a time where AI is threatening the security of the people who make this medium work, we need a show like this as a reminder of what truly stands at the top of the world of art. We've always heard the phrase, "it's a small world," when we come to realize that people's lives can be connected through history or in a one in a dozen coincidence. City's strongest point is that it doesn't seek to tell one main story, but instead a dozen of them that vary every day within this one location. However, they aren't one-off, and they do continue on into multiple episodes that build up to something special. It doesn't matter the age or personality, everyone's daily life and quirks shine through the various showcases of just what another day looks like, and whether intentional or not, they all become slowly intertwined with one another. It helps that pretty much everything is humorous and so ridiculous that the staff can have an absolute field day bringing the manga to life. And there are so many times this show just makes you question, how did they do it? You could turn to the finale or even the Great City Race, which is my personal favorite episode, but the one that really embraces the title of the show is episode 5. The fact that we were able to get a visual on everything simultaneously going on across the area, and yet by the end of the episode, it all wraps up in a bow. It felt like I was watching the type of effort that you would see in a Ghibli sequence with so many characters and moving parts going on. I cannot even imagine how long this one episode could have took only for the rest to keep standing out in their own ways. This is a show that spoke for itself more than I ever could, and even though this will be my shortest section, I hope it doesn't give off the wrong impression, as what it all comes down to is the simple fact that I enjoy this show every week. You can tell that it was made with joy, the same type of joy these characters experienced every day, and in that's all I really needed. Being honest here, I was absolutely spoiled with all my favorite series getting their adaptations back to back. There has been a lot of talk about rising stars in the manga world, and Kei Urana is one of those authors who have carved a path for themselves. There are just some flavors of storytelling you can't get in Weekly Shonen Jump, as Gachiakuta was the announcement to look out for back at Anime Expo. As somebody who's been reading since the first 20 chapters, I knew that the team over at Studio Bones had an assignment that I couldn't bear to see messed up. There is so much life in this manga, from the graffiti and the representation to the clothing and the style, down to the fights, and you just don't get the type of fresh air Urana breathes into her story anywhere. When you take time to learn of their background, you can see how they carefully integrated their essence into the story, and a lot of people would agree that it's pretty badass. But I think what really sold me on this series was how much more it continues to be. The beginning portion of Gachiakuta is the equivalent of a giant wind-up for how much exposition Urana lays out for the foreseeable future. Rudo's character put aside the edgy MC allegations because even though he has rage, he is imbued with the lessons of kindness and connection that Recto instilled in him. And even with a major narrative trigger, it still carries over. The hunt for the culprit would be just one of the many mysteries of the show. And as time goes on, you're given a full course selection of plot lines to be interested in that come within such expansive world building, and when the world claps at you, you gotta clap back harder. You've got the spear in the ground, the boundary between them, the pursuit of Recto's murderer, the hell that is the world of Trash Beasts, the cleaners who keep the dangers at bay with the power system of Jinkies, the magic of Canvas Town, the anomaly that is the Angel, and at the top of the pile lies the Watchmen series, which connects certain key characters throughout the story, as Amo beat the crazy girl allegations so hard enough that people felt they owed her an apology after getting her origin. It doesn't matter whether you're above or below, this world is as cruel as it can be, and everyone's got a story to tell. Many of which, even now in the manga, we're still eagerly waiting to learn more about characters like Engine and Rio, who have some massive stocks to invest in as Urana dangles their origin in front of us. With so much going on, you end up putting the thought of Ruto wanting revenge in the back of your head, because there are infinitely more interesting things you can do within a revenge story that is capitalized on. There's definitely room for critique about just how much exposition there is early on, but once that wind up is put into motion, man does it swing hard. I remember seeing people quite eager to see just when do things really amp up, as Jabber was only a taste as to how some of these fights would go. And thank God we had a 2-course season, as the Trash Beast arc would put us front and center of some of the coolest confrontations and a race to break the deadlock. None of that tiptoeing or sneaking around, we're going straight to the good guys and bringing them into the fight of their lives. A twisted encounter rooted in the Watchmen series, check. Zonka fans going into overtime to defend his PR, check. Hand-to-hand combat, check. Gun brought to a hand-to-hand fight, check. Giant transformation and insane cuts by some of the best animators around, check and check. Arcs like this, when done right, can hit just as hard as a tournament, and we managed to leave with more questions and depart from the season with even more to look forward to on the horizon. The timing of this adaptation just rolled out so perfectly, as you can't help but smile knowing some of the most shocking moments were right in your face, but you just can't say anything too quickly before the anime-only crowd gets there. It felt so good seeing people really dig into discussion for the series and care about who these characters really are beyond the action. There are layers to pull back on, and believe me when I say that there are bigger secrets in this world, ones that will shake both the sphere and the ground as we know it, and the choices Ruto makes will be at the center of this storm. If you are hesitant to believe in the hype, then take a chance and believe in Urana. She deserves every ounce of credit she gets, and I can't wait to see just how much brighter of a future this series has, with one season down and plenty more to go. Think that after my colossal farewell that I gave at the end of last year, that I would really take my advice and let My Hero Academia rest. So I guess we're calling this my bonus round. Not everyone can say that they truly got to grow up with a shonen protagonist since the beginning. And as this story brought me all sorts of highs and lows within a community experience, it felt bittersweet to finally see it through to the end. There was never a time that I wasn't invested in Deku's story, and as the narrative evolved past the need for one great hero, this final push was an effort from all, even those who were thought to be beyond exhausted. And before we can get past the first 2 episodes, we are reminded that in the moments that leave you speechless, this is what shonen is all about. Every day I wake up and thank the big man upstairs that Bakugo will never be as low as Potential Man. His character growth is one that has taken such a massive turn for the better. Years ago, it was hard to imagine him becoming the most popular character in the series, but from his wounded heart to his acceptance and regret, before you knew it, this was a character that was climbing people's charts. So you can imagine how devastating it was to see him in a state of limbo for both Deku and the audience. So you know that when that boy got up once more and immediately entered the fray, you could hear the cries of the Bakugo Nation screaming its peak, leading up to the 1v1s to set us on a course to the horizon, as both Bakugo and Deku put on some of their best battle performances yet. From the VA work to the presentation, if this is what Going Beyond looked like for the final time from the MHA team, then you might as well been somebody in that crowd of citizens cheering. Blood, sweat, and tears down to the unrivaled determination that got you thinking just how are they still standing? And yet the answer is as simple as that's what All Might would do. Bakugo Ichigo's character arc finally came to its completion in the perfect way to pass the baton to Deku, as him and Shigaraki would duke it out. And I don't think I need a word salad to explain how deep in his bag Deku was. From the Black Whip overlay to even giving up One for All to get to that crying child inside. This effort to reach Shigaraki even with his back against the wall is why so many people support this kid. Years of reactions, years of discussions, years of Sunday chapters pushing ahead to the ultimate title drop in which Deku would make the most important run of his life, backed by his classmates and the grand effort of people helping people out. The final season was the most fun I had with the weekly hype in years, and that's saying something knowing all the controversial elements that divided the masses. Being able to see this class fully grow up resonated with the fact that so too are we. I'm 24 now doing my own thing, and I will always cherish the fact of seeing an older Deku happy beyond his days as a student. When you remember everything that he experienced and went through, anybody who really cares about his character would just want him to live out his dream, quirkless or not. And the best part is that he wouldn't be alone in more ways than one. It wasn't perfect, but what story is these days? And I hope Horikoshi continues to grow, given this is his first series he was able to complete from beginning to end. Whether or not history will be kind to MHA is a bit of a time will tell deal, but above all, I'm thankful that I was here for this series, and I will be waiting till the day has come again for Horikoshi's next journey. I know at least one of you out there is gonna comment that To Be Hero X is not an anime but a donghua, and yes, I am well aware, but cut the technicals for just a second. I was keeping this show on my radar ever since I found out that Howlin would be the one behind it, as Link Click was a massive hit for me. In the year where My Hero was ending, I was not expecting another superhero story anytime soon to fill such a special void, but you have to admit that alongside the ambition, this show is an entire journey that really kicked off with a bang. The community experience I had was an absolute treasure. Every week I dove deeper into a well of information regarding the structure of the events, the nuance, and how we were actually moving backwards towards the present, navigating through different events and time periods that slowly but surely connected the dots in relation to the world building and the character arcs as we came to know them. It's not every day you get to view an anthology, let alone a superhero one, that manages to take a hopeful idea that everyone can become a hero and root it deeply in this drama. One that manages to pull in more and more victims, cloaked under the power system of trust and fear, which gives more power to the people who believe in these heroes, and the commission who manipulate their ideals and spirits. It didn't matter if they were children or adults, everybody was in the line of fire by the commission, and the commentary on how the commercialization of heroism can be evil on its own created this giant web of fate, and at the center of it all lied the title of X, a position only the best of the best could obtain, and with an approach that would carry the balance of both the 3D, 2D, and even different art styles. I was mind blown of how a character could be so powerful they could change the visual style of the show. Saving the best for last, for 24 weeks we met various different characters with their stories broken up into acts, each with their own roles to play, as a baton was passed weekly, expanding the tragedy, the conflict, and the heartache heading into the most exciting finale to come from last year. From the mystery of Nice to the rising of Lin Ling, the descent of Yang Cheng, the birth of Lucky Cyan, the ideals, inspiration, and irony of Queen, the defiance of Lolly, the bloodshed of Ghostblade, and the revenge of Johnny converged on one climatic ruins incident. An episode where everything just clicked at once, delivering on such satisfying developments and shock, reminding me that being a Queen fan is the way, and all while setting the stage for the future to come, as what was left was to tie this back towards the first act as we get Nice's spiral. I felt so passionate talking about this show with others, writing threads, theorizing, and breaking down the presentation, only for the finale of the show to bend every rule there is as X took to the stage to defy fate itself. All the sequences and animation highlights you can ask for, and I would go as far as to say that this show was my Arcane. Slowly but surely, Chinese animation has been brewing in the background, ready to prove itself a worthy competitor in the big picture, and To Be Hero X was another massive leap towards success that I personally am giving my favorite thing to come from 2025. There is no better feeling than finding a story that you feel was made for you, and it's because of moments like this that I just can't quit. There is so much more to look forward to in this show. There is tons to look forward to in 2026. And so once again I say, let's run it back for another great year ahead.